What you are about to listen to is me, Pastor Michael Bowman, as I think out loud about and try to apply the scripture to anything and everything that comes to mind. This usually happens in my car, so jump in and let's talk. I've got dark clouds and thunder and rain right now while I'm driving, and so maybe you will hear that in the background, and it can add to the wonderful ambiance of the inside of the vehicle. It'll feel much more like you're right here sitting next to me and we're having this deep conversation. Today I thought I would talk about this, and I'm not exactly sure the best way to articulate what I'm trying to say. But I will try to do it in the most inflammatory way I can to start, and then I will try to explain it. I think that a lot of the movies and TV that I've been watching lately has been an apologetic for demons. And mostly I'm calling it that because I think that it would make a pretty good title. It's going to be a little bit shocking of a phrase, and so that's pretty much why I want to use that. What I really mean is that everything that you watch is not neutral. It has a worldview, and everything that I've been watching lately, maybe not everything, but a good portion of the movies that I've seen recently have a worldview that is clearly pagan, clearly demonic even, and it's an apologetic for a kind of world in rebellion to God. And so it's not just demonic in maybe a hyper literal sense, but it is in that it shows a clear rebellion against God and an inability to see the truth. Now I'm going to give a few examples of this. Number one, my wife and I recently finished We recently finished watching through the first season of Loki on Disney Plus. Now this is pretty on the nose. And it's a story about the god of chaos, the god of mischief, who is basically up against this God of a kind who has determined all time and decided what will happen. Everything is predetermined and maintains this foreknown future. But he wants to change that. He wants to rebel against it because it's not giving people their freedom, their free will. Now, there's much more I could go into. I won't. Maybe you haven't seen it. Maybe you have. I think that you can see this clearly if you watch it. There's this clear antagonism running through the show between those who are clearly the religious ones. They're religious. They believe in something. They have standards. They have a moral code. They have a way that things are supposed to be done, and you're not supposed to break that. In other words, there's like clear boundaries and structure and order. And then on the other hand, you have Loki and other Lokis who are in rebellion to this, and anyone else that is in rebellion to this is they try to stop. But Loki is the hero. He's the one who is going to save the day. At least he's a kind of hero in this story. And a couple more items that are intriguing, and this is kind of spoiling things if you haven't seen it. When they reveal that there's this other Loki, this female Loki, and then there's this almost love story between them. And obviously it doesn't turn out quite like that, but there's an almost love story between Loki and himself. And it's portrayed like any love type story, at least up until near the end. There is a little bit of betrayal, which makes sense. But it's quite literally somebody who is only capable of loving themselves, trying to take down this order and structure that has been given to the world. In the very end, or I guess it wasn't the very end, but near the end of the show, you learn that there is this, god type thing, the timekeepers. There's 3 of them, by the way, which I don't think is accidental. And they find out that actually these 3 basically gods are fake, they are not real, and they're being controlled by somebody else. And so all of this is to say, if you watch it through the lens that I did from basically the start, and part of this was because recently I read Paradise Lost, and I couldn't help but see a lot of similar patterns, but this was like an anti-Paradise Lost. It was, Paradise Lost from the devil's point of view, and it was all horrible, right? It's all, there's no redemption unless the demonic or Satan figure gets to triumph. That's kind of what it seemed like anyway. And so right from the start, I was reading it this way. I was thinking of it this way. And everything very much fell into place. This is a story of demons rebelling against the order and structure of the world that God has put into it. Rebelling against the one who has given order, the Creator himself. I also have pretty recently watched V for Vendetta. Now, V for Vendetta is an older movie, but this one, watching it again, once again I saw this idea that there's like this revolutionary group who are against this government that is bringing order and structure. And obviously the government is made out to look evil, and in the movie they are, but if you just read it as a piece of propaganda, then what you see is this, order and structure being given by a religious group, and those who are in rebellion, it's basically the patriarchy or Christendom, whatever you want to call it, and those who are in rebellion to it are being led by somebody who is quite obviously mentally ill, right? V is a complete mess, and he knows that, and he's a psychopath, and the only way to get somebody like Evie to see his point of view is to literally abuse her and cause her the same mental issues that he has. And then all of a sudden it's like everything is good, and they can, it's horrible and it's traumatic, but also now they're on the same page and they agree we need to take down the patriarchy, the Christendom, the stand-in for these things, which is this government, this very oppressive government in the movie. And it literally ends in this triumphant note when everybody meets together wearing these, V masks, these Guy Fawkes masks, and they meet at Parliament, and it's like this amazing thing. There's like this, it's this amazing revolutionary moment, but there's no plan. There's no structure. There's no idea of where to go from there. And it gives you a view into those who are of a revolutionary mind today. They literally have no idea what will come next. Their whole idea is that if we tear down the structure that exists, if we tear down that which already is, something good is just going to naturally happen. That's the idea. That's the idea portrayed in this movie, and I think the idea that is clearly at work in much of the revolutionary mindset in our culture today. The last one that I watched recently with my wife was a movie called The Woman in the Window. And again, I'm going to spoil this if you haven't seen it. But this is a story of Amy Adams. This is why we watched it, by the way. I like Amy Adams. My wife and I both like Amy Adams as an actress. And so we thought that we just saw this movie, knew nothing about it. We went in completely blind, but we thought, oh, we'll take a look. We'll see what this is like. Watching this movie again gave tremendous insight into our culture. Amy Adams is an agoraphobic. She's a counselor. She was a children's psychiatrist or something, and she's a counselor, but now she's agoraphobic. And it becomes clear that something's happened where she's no longer with her husband and her daughter. She's been separated from them. But then she has this experience where she sees a murder across the street, and she tries to convince everybody that she's seen this murder, and nobody believes her. And it becomes very clear that, she's obviously got problems, and you can't tell throughout the movie what's real and what's not. And here's the, bit of a spoiler though. What comes out in the end is that, nobody's believing her, and then it becomes clear that she was involved in the death of her husband and daughter. That she was having an affair. She was cheating on her husband. They were driving on a snowy road, and the phone rings, and he says, "What, is that him?" And they start to have this argument, and she reaches for this phone that fell, and she swerves off the road, and evidently her husband and daughter are killed. Now she's become agoraphobic. She's got all these issues because of it, but she's seen this murder. She's trying to help. Nobody believes her. The police don't believe her. And then you find out at the end that the one who did these murders is actually the son of this neighbor who had kind of befriended her in some ways. And he is trying to become a serial killer. This is not the first person he's killed. And so he's a really horrible person, in other words. And they have this fight at the end, and finally she basically throws him through a window, and he dies. Then everybody comes to her that had been around before and basically says, "You were right. We were wrong the whole time. We should have believed you." Finally, at the end, it shows her looking at her apartment where she wasn't able to leave before. It's a sunny day. It's no longer kind of dark and dreary. She looks around, then she walks out. She gets in her car. She drives away. And again, it ends with this kind of triumphant moment. But there's no resolution. There's no real resolution. The only resolution and reconciliation that this movie offered was that in order for this woman to be free of the guilt of killing her husband and daughter because she was having an affair, so in other words, she's an extremely wicked person, the only way for her to gain any kind of sense of relief from her guilt and to be free from the guilt which she's trapped in, which I think is symbolized by this agoraphobia and being trapped inside the house, the only way she can be free is by killing somebody who's way worse than her. So the only way to be free of guilt is to see and attack somebody who you think is much worse. I think this provides tremendous insight into the way that most of our culture is operating right now. We're a culture covered in a guilt. I mean, we are guilty up to our eyeballs. We're drowning in our guilt, in our shame. And yet there's no way to get rid of it because we've decided, like in V for Vendetta, to throw off that which is structured, that which has a means of doing it. And again, I'm not pro the wicked government in that movie. Just if you read it again as propaganda, what this is really talking about is Christianity. It's the Christian world. So that has been thrown off and gotten rid of. That has been revolted against, the Christian worldview. So now there is only guilt. There's only shame. There's no way to get rid of it. And so this movie, what it offers is the way to get rid of it is by attacking somebody that is worse than you. So you get the hatred of, Trump or Trump supporters. So you get the hatred of liberals and what they're doing. So you get the hatred of big business or the 1% or what have you. So you can see this on individual levels where people are constantly trying to pull down those who are more successful, who have a better life than them, or at least that they think is a better life than they have. And they're constantly trying to degrade them and to mock them and to pull them down. This is the crabs in a bucket kind of metaphor. This is insight, I think, into the worldview of our culture. You see it in these three films, Loki, V for Vendetta, and The Woman in the Window. It's an apologetic for rebellion, or an apologetic of demons. It's an apologetic for being free from guilt apart from Christ and what he's done. And put simply, it can't work. It will not work. And that's why they'll keep making more. They'll keep trying more. They'll keep looking for more ways to cover this up and to make you feel better. But the only way to find actual solace and peace and shalom is through the reconciliatory work of Jesus Christ on the cross. Hey guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has been, go ahead and rate it, review it, or share it with a friend, especially if you're in La Crosse, Wisconsin, or the surrounding areas. That helps me expand the audience and hopefully increase the impact of these ideas. If you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns on anything that I just talked about, you can reach me at pastormichaeljbowman@gmail.com. You can find more content from me, as well as information about the church that I pastor at ccc-pca.org. With that, I hope you can enjoy the many blessings of God today. Until next time.